I was halfway through a lukewarm cup of coffee, staring blankly at an Excel sheet that hadn't moved in an hour, when my boss tapped my desk and said, "Evan, can you take the new intern?" My first thought was, great, another overconfident college kid who thinks Canva makes them a marketing expert. But then I looked up and saw him, Tyler. He walked in wearing a denim jacket over a white tee and a pair of worn Converse. Hair messy in that "I woke up like this but still look hot" kind of way. He looked too cool to be working here, which made me immediately suspicious. And then he smiled at me, just a small, polite smile, like he knew something I didn't. "Hey, I'm Tyler," he said, holding out a hand. "Evan," I replied, standing to shake it. His grip was warm, confident, no unnecessary macho bullshit. Just enough to make me suddenly aware of how wrinkled my shirt was and how long it had been since I shaved. I figured he'd be shadowing me for a week or two, sitting in on meetings, maybe asking some basic questions about client strategy. What I didn't expect was how fast he started to feel familiar. He wasn't loud or eager in the way most interns are. He took notes, asked smart questions, and had this chill way about him that made people open up, including me. Somehow, by the end of the first day, I knew his favorite band, the name of his dog back home, and the fact that he thought iced coffee was superior in every season, including winter. We started having lunch together, mostly because our schedules lined up, but I found myself actually looking forward to those breaks. I liked the way he talked. He was funny, but quiet, thoughtful. And every now and then, he'd say something just flirty enough to make me question if I imagined it. Like the time I complained about our third-floor office being freezing, and he said, "Well, you could always sit closer to me. I run warm." Or when I joked about being too old for TikTok, and he looked at me and said, "You're not old, you're experienced." I brushed it off every time. I mean, I'm 29. He's 22. That felt like a gap, right? But then came the mixer. Our agency hosts these quarterly rooftop events with overpriced drinks and underwhelming appetizers. I almost didn't go. These things are usually a circle of small talk hell, but my boss insisted. And Tyler texted me to say, "Hope you're going. I might need backup." So I showed up, and there he was, already at the bar, sipping something with a lime wedge, and looking way too good for someone getting paid in college credit. He noticed me and smiled. "You clean up nice," he said, nodding toward my half-decent blazer. "You've got low standards," I replied. We ended up at the edge of the rooftop, away from the crowd, drinks in hand, city lights stretching behind us. It was that kind of night, warm air, just enough wind to make it feel cinematic. "You like working here?" he asked. I shrugged. "Pays the bills. Some days are better than others." He nodded, quiet for a moment. Then, out of nowhere, he asked, "You ever dated someone from work?" I raised an eyebrow. Bold question. He didn't backpedal. "Just curious." I took a sip of my drink. "No, you?" "No," he said. Then he looked at me for a little too long and added, "But I've thought about it." I felt my pulse spike. "With someone here?" He smiled again, smaller this time. "Depends. On what?" He took a slow breath, eyes not leaving mine. "On if they're into guys." There it was. The air between us suddenly felt heavier, tighter. "You always this forward?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Only when I think it might matter," he said, and then took another sip of his drink, like he hadn't just dropped a grenade in the middle of my chest. Before I could say anything else, someone called his name, one of the creative leads. He gave me a look that felt unfinished, like a comma, not a period, and said, "Talk later?" I nodded, heart racing. As he walked away, I realized I had no idea what just happened, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. And somehow, I knew that wasn't going to be the end of it. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept replaying the rooftop conversation in my head, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Just a flirt. A moment. College interns flirt with everything. They flirt with life. That's what they do, right? But I knew better. The way he'd looked at me, the way he said, "Depends." It wasn't careless. It was intentional. The next morning, he strolled into the office like nothing had happened, Same easy smile, same, hey, morning, like he hadn't been 3 inches from my face 12 hours ago, asking if I'd ever dated a guy at work. I nodded at him, trying to keep it casual. Morning. He sat down at the desk across from mine, opened his laptop, and went straight into work mode. Not a single flicker of acknowledgement. By lunch, I was the one feeling unhinged. I needed air. You want to grab a bite? He asked suddenly, as if he could sense I was unraveling. We walked to a nearby taco place. It was warm out, the kind of early summer day where everyone's pretending they're not already sweating. Tyler ordered way too much food. I paid before he could argue. Thanks, sugar daddy, he joked as we found a table outside. Jesus, I muttered, looking around. You're gonna get me canceled. He just grinned and started unwrapping a burrito the size of his forearm. We talked about nothing for a while. Music, weekend plans, some viral video he insisted I had to watch. But the longer we sat, the more I could feel it building again. That tension, that unspoken thing pressing against the edges of our conversation. At one point, he wiped hot sauce from the corner of his mouth and said, "You always this nervous?" I blinked. What? You've been bouncing your leg for like 10 minutes. I looked down. Sure enough, my leg was going like a jackhammer under the table. I forced a laugh. Didn't realize. Probably too much caffeine. Tyler didn't smile this time. He leaned in a little. Or maybe it's because you can't stop thinking about what I said last night. I stared at him. His expression was unreadable. Calm, but intense. Not teasing. Not anymore. You're really not subtle, are you? I asked. He shrugged. Didn't think I had to be. I looked away, focusing on the traffic across the street. You don't know me. I know enough, he said quietly. You're careful. You keep people at arm's length. But you're not scared, just cautious. My mouth went dry. That's a big read for someone who's only known me a few weeks. He leaned back in his chair. Maybe. Or maybe I just pay attention. I didn't have a response. We finished lunch mostly in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was like we'd both said too much already. Back at the office, he didn't say another word about it. Not that day. Not the next. It was like we'd hit pause. But something had shifted. That Friday, most of the team left early. Summer hours. I stayed behind to finish a presentation deck. Headphones in, head down. I didn't even notice Tyler was still around until he tapped my shoulder. I flinched, pulling out an earbud. Jesus, you scared the hell out of me. Sorry, he said, smiling. Didn't want to interrupt your deep focus. I glanced at the clock. 6:47 p.m. You're still here? Yeah, he said. Figured I'd wait. Didn't want you walking to the train alone this late. I blinked. You waited for me? He nodded, completely casual, like he hadn't just said something that made my chest tighten. Figured maybe we could grab a drink or something, if you're up for it. I hesitated. Every reasonable part of me said no. Every older guy who's been burned part of me screamed, "Don't do it!" But then I saw the look in his eyes. Not cocky, not flirty, just hopeful. All right, I said. One drink. We ended up at this dim little bar a few blocks from the office. One of those places with scratched up booths, sticky menus, and way too many beers on tap. It was perfect because nobody from work ever went there. It felt safe. Anonymous. We sat in a corner booth, and for a while, it was just drinks and small talk again. Easy stuff. He asked about my college days. I asked about his. Turns out, we'd gone to rival schools. He teased me about it, and I let him. It wasn't until the second drink that the conversation shifted. Be honest, he said, running his finger around the rim of his glass. Did you think about kissing me the other night? The question came out of nowhere. My stomach dropped. I didn't answer right away. Just stared at my drink, feeling the heat creep up my neck. I did, he said, voice lower now. Thought about it the whole Uber ride home. I finally looked up. You're really not going to let this go, are you? Only if you want me to, he said, But you haven't told me to yet. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. The silence between us stretched, dense with everything unspoken. My heart was hammering in my chest. He leaned forward. Can I ask you something? I nodded. Have you ever been with a guy before? The question hit harder than I expected. I took a sip, buying myself a second to decide how honest I wanted to be. Yeah, I said. A few, but nothing serious. He tilted his head. Because you didn't want serious? Or because it never happened? A little of both, I admitted. Work always came first. Or I told myself it did. Tyler nodded, like he understood more than he should have. Then he smiled, but it wasn't cocky. It was kind. You think you're always going to be like that? I shrugged. I don't know, maybe. I don't think you want to be, he said. It wasn't a question. It wasn't even judgmental. Just true. We left the bar after that. Walked the couple blocks back to the train station in silence. The night was warm, the city buzzing in that soft hum that only happens in the summer. When we got to the platform, the train was a few minutes out. We stood there, quiet, until he said, This is gonna sound crazy, but you want to come back to mine? Just to hang out? I hesitated. Nothing's gonna happen, he added quickly. I'm not trying to pull anything. I just don't want the night to end yet. And the thing was, I believed him, so I said yes. His apartment was small, student housing in a shared building, but tidy, with plants in the window and a desk cluttered with architecture textbooks. He offered me water, kicked off his shoes, and flopped onto his bed like it was the most natural thing in the world. I stayed standing for a second too long, like my brain hadn't caught up to my body. You can sit, he said, smiling up at me. I don't bite. I sat on the edge of his bed, trying to act normal, like my pulse wasn't going insane. I meant what I said, he said. I'm not expecting anything, I nodded. I know, but, he added, softer now, I do want something. Just not like that. Not tonight. I turned to look at him. His expression was open, honest. What do you want? I asked. He paused. I want to know if this, whatever this is, means something to you. Because it does to me. I felt the weight of that, the risk in it, the courage. So I told him the truth. Yeah, I said. It does. And then, slowly, carefully, he leaned in, just enough for me to meet him halfway. Our lips touched, brief, unsure, and then again, firmer, this time. His hand rested lightly on my knee, like he wasn't sure how far he could go. I didn't stop him. We kissed. Nothing rushed, nothing heavy. Just the kind of kiss that's been waiting a while to happen. When we pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. I've been wanting to do that since day one, he whispered. I laughed softly. You've only been here 3 weeks. Feels longer, he said. And the thing was, it did. We didn't do anything else that night. Just lay there, fully clothed, side by side, talking about dumb stuff. Favorite cartoons. Bad tattoos. Songs that make you cry even when you're not sad. At some point, he dozed off. I stayed awake for a while, staring at the ceiling, wondering how the hell I got here, wondering what this was becoming. But I wasn't afraid. For the first time in a long time, I felt open. And that scared me more than anything else. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight slicing through cheap blinds and the sound of Tyler brushing his teeth. For a second, I forgot where I was. Then I rolled over and saw his backpack slouched in the corner. The sweatshirt he wore last night tossed over the chair, and it hit me. I had spent the night in his bed. We hadn't done anything more than kiss, but still. It felt like something had shifted. Hey, he said, stepping out of the bathroom, drying his hands on a towel. His hair was a mess, and he hadn't put a shirt on yet. He looked so effortlessly comfortable, like he didn't regret anything, like he wasn't worried about what came next. I, on the other hand, was already overthinking. "Hey," I said back, sitting up. "You want coffee? It's mostly instant, but I can pretend it's artisanal." I chuckled. "I'll take whatever gets me upright." We ended up on the fire escape outside his window, 2 chipped mugs between us, legs dangling, morning traffic humming below. It was weirdly peaceful. Neither of us said much. Just sipped coffee and watched the city wake up. But even in the quiet, I felt the weight of what we'd done, or hadn't done, the almost, the potential. Eventually, I said, "You sure you're okay with this?" Tyler looked at me, eyebrow raised. "With what?" "This, us. Whatever this is, I don't want to mess up your internship, or make things weird for you at work." He nodded slowly, considering that. Then he said, "You're worried because you think you're the one with something to lose. I mean, aren't I?" Tyler leaned back against the railing. "Maybe, but I'm not some kid playing around, Evan. I know what I'm doing, and I wouldn't have kissed you if I didn't mean it." I believed him. That was the problem. He meant it. And I had no idea what to do with that. Back at the office, nothing really changed on the surface. We kept things professional. Tyler didn't hover. I didn't act any different. But in the little moments, in the way he passed me a pen, or the way I'd glance up and find him already looking, it was like we were sharing this quiet secret. Still, we never talked about what came next. Not until the following Friday. It was late again. Most of the team had cleared out early. I was finishing a report. Tyler was sketching in his notebook, pretending not to be watching me. Eventually he said, "You free this weekend?" I hesitated. "Why?" He smirked. "Thought I might cook dinner for you. You know, something classy. Microwave lasagna. Bagged salad. Maybe a candle if I'm feeling fancy." I smiled, but it faded quickly. "I don't know." "Still worried?" "It's not just the work thing," I said, spinning my chair to face him. I don't do casual well. I'm not asking for casual." That made me pause. "You're not?" Tyler shook his head. "Look, I'm not saying we're going to run off and buy a joint espresso machine or whatever couples do. But I like you. I don't want this to be a one-time thing. And I think you don't either." I didn't answer right away. I felt seen in a way that made me a little uncomfortable, honestly. Like he was pulling something out of me I wasn't ready to name. But he was right. I don't, I admitted, want it to be a one-time thing. Tyler smiled, soft, warm, good. We didn't kiss in the office. We didn't touch. We just looked at each other for a long second that felt like a promise. Saturday night, I showed up at his place with a bottle of wine and no idea what the hell I was doing. He was in sweatpants and a tee, barefoot, hair damp from the shower. He greeted me like we'd been doing this for years. Dinner was, in fact, microwave lasagna, and we did light a candle, one of those woodsy Target ones. It smelled like pine and firewood, and whatever calm feels like. After we ate, we sat on his couch and watched a movie neither of us really paid attention to. He was close, not touching me, but close enough that I felt his presence in the shape of the air between us. And at some point, I turned to look at him, and he was already looking at me. He didn't say anything, just leaned in and kissed me. Slower this time, less cautious, like we'd already crossed whatever line there was, and now we were just figuring out how far it went. He slid a hand up my thigh, not pushing, just resting there, firm and warm. I exhaled against his mouth. "Still okay?" he murmured. I nodded. And then I kissed him again, harder this time. We didn't sleep together that night. Not really. We made out on his couch for what felt like hours, tangled up in each other, our bodies pressed together, but there was a line we didn't cross. Not because we didn't want to, but because somehow, without saying it, we both knew this wasn't just about sleeping together. Eventually, he pulled away, breathless, his fingers still curled loosely in the hem of my shirt. "You can stay over if you want," he said, voice low. I nodded. "Yeah, I want to." We crawled into his bed, fully clothed again, like we were afraid to break whatever spell we were under. He turned off the light, and I felt the mattress shift as he rolled toward me. His arm draped over my waist, nothing more. And in the dark, with his breath warm against the back of my neck, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Safe. The next few weeks felt like we were living in some kind of quiet, parallel universe. At work, we were just Evan and Tyler, mentor and intern, joking during coffee runs, collaborating on projects, keeping it professional. But outside the office, it was something else entirely. Dinners at his place. Movie nights at mine. A few lazy Sunday mornings where we stayed in bed too long and didn't say much, just let the silence stretch comfortably between kisses and half-whispered jokes. It wasn't serious, not yet, but it was consistent, and that scared me more than I wanted to admit. One night we were sitting on my couch, his head in my lap, while I absent-mindedly played with his hair. Some documentary was playing in the background, neither of us really watching it. He looked up at me and said, "You know what freaks me out?" I smiled. "No, but I'm guessing you're about to tell me." He grinned, but it faded quickly. "This, like, not in a bad way, just how easy it is with you," I swallowed. "Yeah, I know what you mean." "I've never dated a guy before," he admitted. "I mean, not like this. Not where it wasn't just about matching or keeping it low-key. You're the first person I've wanted to actually try with." That hit me harder than it should have. I wanted to say something reassuring or clever, but I didn't. I just leaned down and kissed him, slow and soft, like it was the only answer I had. Then, of course, came the moment I'd been dreading. The agency hosted another rooftop mixer. End of internship celebration. Everyone was there. Drinks were flowing. Music was loud, and the sky was a dusky orange by the time I saw Tyler standing near the bar, surrounded by a few of the other interns. He looked good. Really good. White button-down, sleeves rolled up, collar open just enough to be distracting. He was laughing at something someone said, head tilted back, and for a second, I just watched him. This guy I'd been kissing on my couch, now playing the part of charming intern like a pro. He caught me looking. His smile softened, just a little, and he excused himself from the group. "You good?" he asked when he reached me. "Yeah," I said. "You?" He nodded, sipping his drink. "Kinda wish we weren't pretending like we don't go home together." I laughed under my breath. "Tell me about it." He leaned in a little, voice lower. "I want to kiss you." "Not here." "I know, just wanted you to know I was thinking about it." And somehow, that was worse. That night, after everyone had left and we were back at my place, we stood in my kitchen, both still dressed from the party, barefoot on the tile. He leaned against the counter, watching me with that look again, the one that made it hard to breathe. "I've been thinking," he said. "Dangerous," he smirked. "Seriously. I've been thinking about what happens when the internship ends." I froze. He saw it. "Don't panic," he said quickly. "I'm not asking for anything crazy. I just want to keep seeing you, if that's something you want." I set my glass down, my heart suddenly pounding way harder than it needed to. "Yeah," I said. "It is." "Okay." And just like that, it was settled. He stepped toward me, closed the distance between us, and kissed me like he'd been waiting all night to do it. There was no rush, no hesitation, just this deep, quiet certainty, like we both knew we were already in too deep. And maybe, for the first time, that didn't feel like a bad thing. Tyler's internship ended on a Wednesday. No big send-off, no cake, no dramatic goodbyes. Just a few polite handshakes, a couple of good luck with finals, and a nod from my boss as he passed Tyler's desk without stopping. That was it. We walked out together around 5:30, the late sun stretching shadows across the sidewalk. Tyler carried a small box of his stuff, his notebook, a pen he accidentally stole from reception, a crumpled snack wrapper that somehow made the cut. "You good?" I asked, squinting at him in the light. He nodded, adjusting the box. Weirdly, yeah, I thought I'd feel more sentimental, You were only there 2 months, I reminded him. Still, that was the first job I ever cared about. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just held the door open as we exited and walked in silence for a few blocks. When we reached the corner where he usually turned to catch his train, he paused. "Come over?" he asked without looking at me. I nodded. Yeah. The train ride was quiet. Our bodies close but not touching. We both knew this was a shift, a chapter ending, even if neither of us wanted to say it out loud. At his apartment, he dropped the box by the door and kicked off his shoes with a sigh. "Want a drink?" he asked. "Sure." He grabbed a couple of beers from the fridge and handed me one, our fingers brushing for just a second longer than necessary. Then he sat on the floor, back against the couch, legs stretched out. I joined him. Mirroring his posture, we drank in silence, the room dim and still. "You're gonna get busy again," he said, finally breaking the quiet. "Back to long hours. Late nights." "Probably," I said. "I don't want to disappear just because I'm not your intern anymore." I turned to him. "You were never just my intern." He smiled, a little sad. "Yeah, I know, but it's different now." It was, and we both knew it. "So what do we do?" he asked. "Just hope this keeps working? Hope we don't fade out?" "I don't want to fade out," I said, without hesitation. "I want to see where this goes." He looked at me like he was trying to memorize that sentence, like it was something he'd needed to hear but hadn't been sure I'd say. "Okay," he whispered. "Me too." We didn't kiss right away. We just sat there, staring at each other, both of us aware that this was the moment. The real one. The one where you stop pretending it's casual. Eventually, I reached for him, fingers sliding behind his neck, pulling him in gently. This kiss was different. It wasn't new or playful or tentative. It was claiming, not in an aggressive way, but in that quiet, intimate way where you finally let someone in all the way. When you stop holding your breath. We ended up in his bed, bodies pressed together, clothes discarded slowly, carefully, like we were unpacking something fragile. There was no rush, no fumbling, just touch and breath and whispered yeses. It was the kind of intimacy that makes you forget where one person ends and the other begins. The kind that makes everything else, work, time, fear, fade into the background. After we lay tangled in the sheets, skin still warm, his head resting against my chest. "You okay?" I asked, brushing hair from his forehead. He nodded. "More than okay." And then, after a moment, he said, "I think I'm falling for you." It hit me like a slow wave, because I'd felt it too, quietly, in the background of every conversation and every glance and every night we'd spent talking, instead of touching. I didn't say it back right away. I just kissed the top of his head and held him closer, and I knew he understood. Because sometimes, silence says everything. The next morning, everything felt different. Not in a bad way, just real. Quietly, undeniably real. Tyler was still asleep, curled into my side like he belonged there. Sunlight spilled across his back, and I caught myself watching him longer than I meant to, tracing the curve of his shoulder with my eyes, memorizing the softness of his breath against my chest. I didn't know what we were yet. Boyfriends? Dating? Something else? But I knew I didn't want it to end. He stirred eventually, blinked himself awake, and gave me the kind of sleepy half-smile that made my chest ache. "Morning," he mumbled, voice thick with sleep. "Morning." He stretched, groaned softly, then nestled back into the crook of my arm. "I like waking up like this." "Me too," I said, and I meant it. Over the next few weeks, we found a rhythm. He finished school. I kept working. We didn't see each other every day, but we talked constantly. Texts, calls, voice memos he'd send me in the middle of the night when he couldn't sleep and just wanted to tell me about a song he heard or a dream he had. He came over on Fridays, usually with cheap wine and takeout. We'd eat on the floor and watch garbage TV, and fall asleep halfway through some movie we'd both pretend we'd finish next time. One night, after a particularly long week, he came over and just collapsed into my bed, fully clothed, face down. "No more people," he mumbled into my pillow. "Too many people today." I lay beside him, arm over his back, and said, "Then don't talk. Just stay." And he did. That's how it started to feel, like home, like I was building something, slowly, piece by piece. Not just with him, but because of him. Eventually, we had the talk. The what are we talk. It was a Saturday morning, the kind where nothing was planned and everything moved slowly. We were eating pancakes in bed, his idea, obviously, and I said, "So are we doing this?" He looked up from his plate, syrup on his lip, eyes cautious but steady. "I want to," he said. "I don't want to keep things vague." "I'm in this, Evan. If you are." "I am," I said. "Fully." He reached for my hand, fingers threading between mine. "Okay, then let's do it." Just like that. No fireworks, no grand declarations, just two people choosing each other. Months passed. Life stayed complicated. Work stress didn't go away. Neither did the occasional doubt or fear, or late-night overthinking. But through it all, there was Tyler. His laughter in my kitchen. His socks mixed with mine in the laundry. The way he'd text me thinking about you in the middle of my most chaotic days. The way he'd crawl into bed and rest his head on my chest like I was something safe. One night, we were brushing our teeth side by side, two idiots in boxers, spitting toothpaste and bumping elbows, and he looked at me in the mirror and said, "You know what I like most about this?" "What?" He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. "That it feels easy." And yeah, it did. Not because it wasn't messy or uncertain or a little terrifying sometimes, but because, for the first time in a long time, love didn't feel like something I had to survive. It felt like something I could live in. With him.